At this time, moving along in the spirit of here, we just heard Pearson in the war and the power of the Essex District Medical Society, setting standards of excellence. Our very first Founders Award recipient, our one and only political genius that helped to run the society for so long and still keeps us on our influence. A good friend of Satty's, past president of not only this county but the State Medical Society and Satty, your own OBGYN Society, Dr. Anthony Caggiano.
First of all, I want to thank Satty for the honor of introducing her. But before I do that, Satty, you are the fifth founder. The first founder, Barry, was very, very, very good in asking me to be the first founder, so that was good. After me was a woman, Anita Fowler, who was a pediatric surgeon of much note in Essex County. After that was Mark Olesnicki, who we all know was not only president of the County Medical Society, was also president of MSNJ. And Mark is an internist. He was also president of the medical staff at St. Barnabas Hospital as well. Last year, we honored a senior gentleman who was very close to me and was a mentor to me. Last November, we honored Ennio Kaluri. And unfortunately, in March of this year of 2013, Ennio passed away. Ennio had, and I'm not giving away any major secrets, but he had a malignant melanoma and no one knew about it. I mean, his doctor that took care of him knew about it, but he was a very personal, private person. And he just didn't want to show what he felt was a weakness by letting people know that he wasn't feeling well. He ended up with a metastatic pneumonitis secondary to the malignant melanoma, which he had had for 5 years. He had chemotherapy for it, and he went into remission. And then the last month of his life, he really started to suffer. He had shortness of breath, and he really then started to go. But when we saw him, if you remember last November, Ennio was the picture of health. He looked absolutely terrific. He gave a wonderful speech, talked about his career in medicine. So I would like to right now just do a moment of silence for our first founder, Ennio Kaluri. Okay. Our first founder is Satty Keswani. I go back to 1967 when you taught us infertility at Martland Medical Center. If you remember correctly, we were residents in Jim Breen's program of OBGYN, and you had already done some work as far as infertility was concerned, and you taught us what we knew in those days. There was no IVF, no in vitro, nothing, but you were able to determine what the problems were and help many women, especially the indigent women, get pregnant. So that was my first experience with the wonderful Satty Keswani. But now let me tell you what this wonderful lady had metamorphosized into and what she is today so that we can recognize her. Originally intending for a career in surgery, Satty Keswani arrived in the United States from New Delhi, India, in the late 1950s to find that no surgical residencies were available. In those days, they weren't available to women and not available to international women in particular. Women were not welcome in the field. Instead, she chose obstetrics and gynecology. And gynecology is surgery, and it is a surgical subspecialty, or a specialty per se. And after delivering over 1,000 babies, she became intrigued by the problem of women who were unable to conceive. By 1967, she found her life's work and established a practice specializing in treating infertility. In private practice in Livingston, New Jersey, for over 35 years, she has successfully treated hundreds, almost thousands, of couples for infertility while developing new methods to treat the problem. And I will later on mention that she also does holistic medicine, and she has so much to offer the patient because not only traditional medicine, allopathic medicine, but also holistic medicine. In her work in infertility and reproductive endocrinology, Dr. Keswani specializes in diagnostic procedures that help women with a wide variety of reproductive disorders. She also helped pioneer procedures that increase the likelihood of success for artificial insemination. Before IVF, she was already doing things to enhance the ability of people to conceive. And she continues to pursue several of those areas of research. So not only was she a clinician, but she was also a research person in the field of human reproduction, including detecting and evaluating. I remember you told us about ovulation. You told us how to detect that ovulation was correct or it wasn't correct or it wasn't happening. And Satty would teach us these techniques. She also did plastic surgery on the fallopian tubes. Now with IVF, you don't have to do that much anymore, obviously, but you did do microsurgery and you were a pioneer in microsurgery. A strong advocate for women in medicine, she served as a non-governmental organization delegate to the United Nations on population problems and represents the American Medical Women's Association at the UN. So you're still involved at the UN, is that correct? Yes. She's a past president of the New Jersey Medical Women's Association and remains active in mentoring people on their board in medicine. Upon graduating from New Delhi's Lady Hardridge Medical College, she remained to intern there before going to serve as a visiting physician. This is early in her career at the Philippines. It's my son. Wants to talk. I'll call you later, Eric. Okay, goodbye. Yeah, always on call for your family, that's it. Okay. You went to the Philippine General Hospital in Manila. From there, she moved to Canada to complete an internship at the Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto, Canada, and then immigrated to the United States, completing a residency in OBGYN at the Margaret Haig Hospital in Jersey City, doing postgraduate training in infertility at New York Medical College, Flower Fifth, at that time. And that's when you came over and started to teach us, if you had finished that fellowship. Okay. And working as a research scientist at Bellevue Hospital in New York City, she then established her own gynecologic practice in Livingston called the Livingston Fertility, which you continue to direct to this day. Dr. Keswani recalls the early years were not easy, given the demands of her busy practice in a growing family. Thank you, Modi, right? Modi, yes. You allowed this. You allowed her to be what she became because you helped with the family, which is right here. You're raising your hand? That's very good. Handsome young man, right? Okay. The early, as I said, they weren't easy, given the demands of the busy practice and a growing family. She opened the clinic in the morning. She left to pick up her children from school in the mid-afternoon and then reopened in the evening. She was one of the few women in the field at the time. She recalls, but I had good health and a supportive husband. Okay. So she gives you lots of credit. In addition to her practice, Dr. Keswani is on the attending staff at St. Barnabas Hospital in Livingston and also a clinical instructor at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School in Newark, and she was nominated by Representative Frank Pallone from the 6th District as the local legend in medicine, who wrote in praise of her. Aside from her groundbreaking role in women's health, she is a beloved mentor and a role model to patients and the junior women physician. Dr. Keswani has previously been recognized for distinguished service, including being chosen Woman of the Year in Essex County, New Jersey, by the John Kreco Foundation back in 1986. But let me say one more thing. This lady has done more for women in medicine and international women in medicine than anyone that I know in the exposure that I've had over all the years in the tri-state area. You really have. And when you were president of the Essex County Medical Society, you brought many, many people, especially women in medicine. We want more women to participate, and that was your mantra. You wanted all the women to participate and be involved. But they didn't all have wonderful husbands like you either, you know. Without further ado, Satty Keswani.
I don't know what to say. Who is this person you're talking about? It's not me.
Yes, it is. It is you.
Thank you so much.
He wants to give you an award here, the First Founders Award, which is wonderful.
My gosh, that's my whole life history.
Oh, yeah, very good. We did it in 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Here we are. Circuitous route. All right, now this is wonderful. Here it is. The Essex County Medical Society proudly presents the 5th Founders Award to Satty Keswani, MD, a role model and a leader for organized medicine, November 20th, 2013.
Thank you so much, my friend, Dr. Caggiano. I don't really know what, what to say after that introduction. I think that you said a lot of things about me. But prior to my remarks, I would just like to pass this book around for everybody to see, because I feel that many of you here have wives who are professionals. Alan, hello. Many of you have sisters and members of the family who are in the workplace. This book is written by a lady called Sheryl Sandberg. She was the CEO of Google and then became the CEO of Facebook when Mark Zuckerman recruited her. So I would like to circulate this book, but I want it back because I want my daughter to receive it at the end of the session. Sonia, you said you saw my speech already, and you said don't be so hard on the men. I said, what do you mean by that? You know, I'm not a feminist liberationer, but however, I want you all to know that this evening at the 6 o'clock news, President Clinton got an award from our President Obama of the Freedom Award, and along with him was a lady whom you may all know named Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem. She is an activist and has great deal of work to advance women. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Bart DiGregorio. Where are you? He did leave. The Board of Trustees and the organizers of this meeting, Dr. Prostowski and Dr. Caggiano, for organizing it and introducing me. And that was a very elaborate introduction. I thank you for that. Anthony, I have a riddle for you, and I think you, as an OBGYN, you'll be able to decipher it. It had to do with my family's heard this one, so I hope you have it. Yes. You have to hear it again. Anyhow, it had to do with a 6-year-old boy who comes home to his mother and says, Mama, Mama, I have to do my homework, and my teacher wants to know where did I come from. And the mother said, oh, the stork brought you. He doesn't like the answer, and then he goes to the grandmother, and he gets the same answer, the stork brought you. So, are you listening? He goes to a third member of the family, and the same answer. So the next day, Anthony, he goes home, back to school, and the teacher said, yeah, did you do your homework, young man? And he said, yes, teacher. Well, what's the answer? Can you tell me what's the answer, Anthony? What do you think his answer was? He said, a 6-year-old, for the last 3 generations, we have not had a normal birth in my family. How would you like that, Barry, for a 6-year-old? You're a pediatrician, right? So much for sex education. At this point, I would like to introduce my family and friends who came here to join me for this celebration of the Founders' Day. First, my husband. Mo, can you stand up? Thank you for being there when I needed you most. And I will say more about you later on. And next to him is my daughter, Sonia, who is my best friend. Thank you for being there all the time. And then next to her would be Nora. Nora, I can't thank you enough for the 3 years that you gave me to work with me. Thank you. Yeah. And who is next to you? All right. That is our grandson, Alessandro Zaccheo. We love you, and he is just pure joy. I just want you to know that. Kathy, as you have a grandson, that's similar, right? And next to him is his father, my son-in-law, Antonio Zaccheo. When they announced their engagement, it was Christmas Day. And I said, well, you know what? I'm so glad you can marry my daughter. I told my daughter, you can marry who you want, but I want to have his blood work done. And he was just freaking out. And it was Christmas Day. No, I didn't get that far. So anyhow, the reason was that Sonia was diagnosed to have thalassemia minor, and I knew that he's marrying an Italian, that there is more thalassemia in the Mediterranean, and that we want to make sure that they don't both have the gene. But Alessandro, you got the gene. So you be careful who you're going to marry. And next to you, Antonio, is my niece who's visiting from India, a fashion designer. And then comes my very good friend, Dr. Michelson. Laurel, I couldn't be a surgeon. I tried my best. So I admire you. And now I'd like to introduce my 2 good friends, Jane Massa and her husband, Bob Massa. On the next table, I would start with my nephew, Dr. Rohit Keswani, with his new bride, Ankur. Welcome to the Keswani family. By the way, I attended the wedding in India in August, and I tell you what a celebration that was. It took 3 days, and you know the Indian wedding sometimes can take, how many days, 7? And, okay, next to Ankur are 2 gentlemen that I cannot thank enough. You know, in medicine, they don't teach us anything about finance. So John Druskin and his father, Richard Druskin, thank you very much for the knowledge you've imparted to me. And now comes a lady that's so important to me because my husband proposed to me at her house on New Year's Eve. And that would be, are you ready for this? 51 years ago. I don't look it, right? Kathy, do stand. You're just a special person for me. All the years we knew each other. She was my medical student at Margaret Haig, and she told me that they were getting married the following year, and I knew my husband for 3 years, and I said I wasn't ready. And when she said no, and within a year we get married, so then he produced the ticket to India. So I said, oh boy, he's high commodity. They're going to marry him off in India. So Kathy, I said yes to him on that day, in spite of all the drinks that you gave him. And next, of course, is Jerry. Jerry, you have been a wonderful friend in all the years. Thank you for flying from Florida to come and be with me. Okay, now comes to Dr. Baptist. How are you? So happy that you're here with me, the head of our department in pathology. And next to him is my Ariel, who is now currently working with me. And Nora, you chose her? Yes? Thank you so much. With that, I would like to start to tell you that I am going to be easy on the men, Sonia. My data is not going to go as far as Valerie. Did she leave the room? Valerie's here. However, in 1942, that would make it simply 60 years ago, the New York Times placed an ad stating doctors needed, women need not apply. The Second World War was waging. As I said, I don't go that far back in the previous. And they did not want to have women assist during the war. The admissions of our medical schools are above 50%. We talked about that, Anthony. And we are equal, but we are not receiving the same attention. We have to empower women. We have come far, but not far enough. As thus, we have to continue to promote this effort. I want to share my diverse background. Anthony already did touch on it. I was born in India. At that time, it was Lahore, Pakistan. And at age 4, my parents decided to migrate. And they were on a way to California, where my grandfather was working in the farms in Sacramento and Yuba City. And however, he came through the Philippine Islands and found some business. And we called the Philippine Islands home for at least 18 years. And they were wonderful. I know more about the Filipino language than my own Indian language. So, having finished my pre-med in the Philippines, I went to India to study medicine. As you said, Lady Harding Medical College is the only college in the whole of Southeast admitting women. From there, as you heard already, I did my internship in Mount Sinai. And Anthony, which you didn't mention, was that that year, the ECFMG, which is the foreign exam for foreign medical graduates, was enforced. And I did not want to take the exam. And I said, oh, I'm fully trained, and why am I going to have to take another exam? However, it was not to be. I did take the exam and did exceedingly well, and thus most of the best residencies opened up. First, I started ophthalmology, thinking that there was some surgery, as I couldn't get into a surgical residency, Laurel. And then soon after that, I decided that obstetrics and gynecology would be the next best choice, that there will be some surgery involved. To mention to you about my experience in the Philippine Islands. At age 10, in 1942, the Second World War began, and the Japanese attacked the Philippine Islands, and it was a surprise attack. And they attacked central Manila. And Alessandro, I want you to know, you don't know this, I don't think I ever told you the story. I was 10 years of age, just 1 year younger than you, where the Japanese started to bomb Manila, and the bombs were falling all around, and our teachers told us, get under the desks. So then I'll come to why I'm telling you that story. General Douglas MacArthur, those of you who know about the Second World War, was totally astounded by the takeover of the Philippine Islands. And he said, as he lost the war, I shall return. And after 3 years, he kept his promise, and he regained the land for the citizens, as was, because that was a surprise attack. Now I feel awfully bad right now because of what's happening to the Philippines about the typhoon. Leyte, where the region where the typhoon is or was, slightly south of the Manila where I grew up. And of course, our country has sent some relief, but not sufficient enough. We have a resident at St. Barnabas who is from the Philippines, and he's taken a team of doctors. You must know him, Selvin, Hernani, and be proud of him. Now, to come to the history, we've had a history of the other earlier physicians. Our history as medical women go as far as 1914. And that's just about 100 years. 2014, we will have our anniversary, 100th anniversary. In 1914, the AMA did not admit women physicians into the organization. How many of you knew that? I mean, that's information that's very important just 100 years ago. This led to the founding of the American Medical Women's Association, Anthony. It was not just by fluke, but the women were not admitted. And at that, they formed their own organization. And the person who was responsible for this is named Dr. Bertha Van Heusen, a surgeon from Michigan. And they had their first meeting in Chicago. And thus, we are going to celebrate in Chicago our 100th anniversary next year. We have branches all over the country. And we have one president here, previous, Dr. Laurel. Do take a bow. You were treasurer? All right, so that's good enough. As you heard from Anthony, that I'm working at the UN and continue to serve there. I was elected by the Medical Women's Association to represent them. My charge was to attend briefings on Thursday mornings. You know, in our community, the men on Wednesdays closed their offices and played golf. But instead, I went to New York City and volunteered at the UN, and I'm still continue to do that work. It's for 30-some years. Women surgeons could not operate, and Dr. Van Heusen was dubbed a petticoat surgeon because she had to camouflage herself as a male to enter the operating room. Stephen, how's that for knowledge, huh? So there were many hurdles that women went through. And then I want to say to you, why did I become a doctor? I really wanted to study law, but my father said, that's not a noble profession. So I didn't know what he meant by that then, but I think now I know. So it was my father who wanted to be a physician, and he was accepted to medical school, however not admitted, because somebody with more money, as what he tells me, or told me, was that got to his seat because they had more money. So what did he do? What did he do? I know what he did, but since I wrote it down, and Ariel, thank you for the help. We worked on this, by the way, for several days. Sonia, so I haven't said anything negative about the men so far, right? I'm telling this story because his two older children, myself and my younger sister, who is an anesthesiologist, being both girls are in the medical profession. He pushed his dream through us, and we are grateful for that, for our parents having their young women who otherwise would have been married off early. Moti, you listening? This is a double honor for me. I served the society as president in 2002 in May, and in September, the tragedy of 9/11 happened, right, Barry? And I can't say enough about our previous past executive director. Tom, did you know him? Arthur Ellenberger? No, you didn't. He served our society for some 50 years. Am I right? Arthur he orchestrated the disaster relief for the communities under the tutelage of Dr. Mark Wallen. Is that correct? You corrected me that. However, Dr. Prostowski chaired this meeting, and we as a committee arranged for all area hospitals. And Dr. Allen, you would remember that. I came to Beth Israel Hospital to give this talk. And we all volunteered to prepare and to receive the injured. However, we all know that all the 3,000 casualties were perished, and we didn't get any wounded to treat. Both my children were in New York City on that horrific day. Sonia, my daughter, across the two towers on the 50th floor of the Chase Manhattan building, and saw the second plane pass by from her window. As it hit the South Tower, it shook her building. She was pregnant 5 months with you, Alessandro. Yeah, you know. So you know what you went through that. And then later on, your mom walked away for 3 miles and finally came home at midnight. Our son was further at Midtown in Park Avenue, and she had told his sister to please come walk over to my house, which is 84th and 1st. However, no one was allowed to pass through the United Nations. And of course, the chaos of those of us who heard, or I'm sure all of us, 10 years, 11 years ago, listened to what happened, saw what happened. And later we heard that after the disaster, that they were going to spray anthrax in the city. And both my children are in the city. So you can, I can carry on, but you know, I don't want to go any further on this topic because all of us have our own stories to tell and know exactly where we were at what time and when. Yes? Just like we know where we were when our President Kennedy was assassinated. 2 days, in 2 days hence, will be the 50th anniversary. Is that correct? Now, I want to touch upon the success. The success of women have many requirements. One is men of good conscience that would help them. And I was fortunate to have such mentors. However, the main support, really, those women who are listening, came from other women physicians and through the American Medical Women's Association. The success of a woman physician to practice medicine has 3 requirements. You heard Anthony say husband, a husband who's understanding and supportive, and I'm fortunate to have one. Moti, thank you very much for all the years that he took care of the children where I could not. He was there for them because my job was not 9 to 5, and I'm more grateful. I have no words to say thank you to you. The second, I told you the 3 letter H. So one is husband, the next is health. Goes without saying that without health we can't accomplish anything. Am I right? And the 3rd letter H is household help. Now, you know, you men who are in practice go home to a wife, but we go home to a husband. So you know the difference, yes? Alan? You know the difference. I won't say, because that will affect, my daughter will be upset about that. I'm not going to say anything further. And a good household help should be reliable, because I remember the days when the babysitter would not show up, and I had surgery scheduled in the OR. Anthony, I had to get a neighbor to come and watch them so I can go to the hospital. With perseverance and persistence and endurance, we can make it, and we have made it. Yes, Laurel? My first choice, as you know already, was to be a surgeon, and that too a plastic surgeon. And Alessandro, I hope you will fulfill my dream. Huh? You heard that I could not do a surgical residency. I won't belabor on that. I did a year of ophthalmology, by the way, and so I know enough about the slit lamp. So you can tell Lily that. And then, of course, I fell upon this residency because of my doing well in my ECFMG at the Margaret Haig Hospital. And I delivered, as you said, 1,000 babies. I did 120 C-sections and 60 breech deliveries, but I did not know how to work up an infertile couple. That's something they didn't teach us, Anthony. So what did I do? One fine Thursday morning on grand rounds, a Dr. Sophia Kliegman, who's a pioneer in infertility from NYU, gave us grand rounds. And I was just amazed that, yes, you can do a hysterosalpingogram, you can do study ovulation, you have to do the sperm count. And I approached her after the grand rounds, and I said, I would like to learn more about infertility. I said, where can I go? Kathy, at that time, we didn't have any fellowships, you know. So Dr. Kliegman told me that I have $2,000 that a patient gave me for her happiness of conceiving. So if you want, you can come work with me at Bellevue Hospital. So that's what my fellowship was. Just to, I then practiced for 2 years with Dr. Kliegman in New York City. And I would like to, I would tell you, during my practice there, she had a patient from the United Nations and needed an Indian sperm donor. So she comes to me, she says, you know, we have no residents at the NYU, so I can't find an Indian donor. I said, oh, no problem. I'll ask my husband. So I come home and I say to him, oh, we need your sperm. And I told him the story. There's a couple that, you know, Dr. Kliegman's patients and VIPs, and he says, I don't mind, but you will mind. And you know, Rohit, you know, I said, why should I mind? I'm the one asking you. So he says, well, because you know the couple, the recipient. Then it did dawn on me, you know, so it's not totally anonymous. So those were a few things that I did go through. Anthony, after practicing medicine in New York with Dr. Kliegman, the travel became tough because I had 2 young children. And I founded the infertility clinic. That's where we connected with each other, and did that for 3 years. I had a grant for $1 million and learned that my junior was getting $25,000 more salary than myself. Well, I was furious about this. And I said, how could it be? I did all the work, and I'm not, you know, earning as much. So this drove me to go into private practice, because I used to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning to leave the children to go to the medical school and teach and, you know, do our surgeries early in the morning. As such, we found a piece of property which was located, that's zoned for a physician to be able to have a home office. And with that, I was able to raise a family with 2 children, Raj and Sonia. And Raj, I'm sorry, is a New Yorker, and he couldn't be here, but Ankur, you're a New Yorker, and you got here. The first week I opened my office in Livingston, a truck went through my sign. And I said, oh my gosh, that's a bad omen, you know, the very first week. The next week, neighbors come in and say, to welcome us, and stated that if my name was Sarah Cohen and not Satty Keswani, I would do better. So I said, oh my gosh, they don't even like my name. Third, the men in the community also were threatened that this is the only bad thing I'm saying, right? They were threatened that I would be taking away their patients. However, my patients became their patients after I succeeded in treating them. Raj and Sonia, thank you so much for being understanding of my career and enduring the difficulties that come with the job. In conclusion, I have a joyful life with all its ups and downs and the fortune of having a happy family. Thank you again to my colleagues. I have been active in women's issues and will continue to help women physicians to ensure that the future the compassionate side of women physicians to bring to the practice of medicine. To end, you all have heard this few weeks that Janet Yellen is going to be elected our chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank, and I'm hoping that Hillary Clinton in 2016 will be our president. How about that, ladies? Yes? And then we will have the most powerful women in the world, because we have been told that we are not so advanced. I thank you for listening, and I'm honored about this award, and thank you so much.